come in without these
Oh.
are going to be interested. So as a quick disclaimer, we have no association with Roosterteeth. We do not own any of this. We are simply fans. This is a fan panel as stated in the title, and we ask that you please support the official release. So the Crooks, us, present the World of Remnant, a RWBY Fanpanel. Now, has anyone been to World of Remnant in OhioCon this year? You're going to notice it looks a little bit different this time around, the entire slideshow and the way we're doing it. Okay, so what is RWBY? So RWBY is an anime-inspired online series created by the late Monty Ohm of Roosterteeth Productions. His most famous works include Haloid, Dead Fantasy, and the freelance trilogy of Red vs. Blue. The show RWBY is often hailed by critics for its sleek fighting animation, constantly improving static animation, such as when they're simply sitting around talking, darker themes later in the show, especially in the third season, music, and its art style.
Also, while we're doing this presentation, we would like it if anyone will not mention anything about the season 3 at the moment, because a lot of people only watch RWBY on Netflix, and they don't know that, you know, what the series, you can get it on YouTube or on roosterteeth.com. So we're going to ask you to not mention anything from season 3.
I mean, we're still going to talk about themes, some of which are a little bit on the dark side, that are present in the first season as well. So there was a video, but ultimately we had to skip it due to lack of tech support. So the video we were about to present was a trailer for the show, the very first one, which featured the main protagonist, Ruby Rose, fighting off a bunch of monsters known as Grimm. And she used the weapon, displayed it in the background. Now you see a red sight, but it can also transform into a high-powered sniper rifle. And it's actually a common theme among RWBY in that weapons are able to change form. Present is the scythe of Ruby Rose, the Crescent Rose. When she normally fights humans, she doesn't use the scythe, but when she fights monsters, she uses the actual scythe itself. To present, some people debate it's about a moral thing. Some people compare it to Batman. I personally don't see it. I see it as keeping it more family-friendly early on. And here's another character using something called glyphs, which she can use something called dust, which is essentially, the best way to explain it is, it's this substance that you can grind into either powder or keep it in crystal form. And depending on whatever color it is, it can change properties, such as properties of water, fire, lava, ice, etc. And sometimes some people can use glyphs, which essentially can do different things depending on dust.
This is also another character in the game, or in the movie, named Blake, and she uses a katana-like weapon that she can change into a gun as well.
A common theme amongst weapons is guns, once more.
For instance, this character is Yang, and there's a scene where she ends up getting in a fight with the guy who runs a club. And in the fight, she basically punches him in the face with a weapon that basically is a shotgun in her fist, and he just kind of gets up and walks away like nothing happened.
Yeah, a common thing on RWBY is that bullets often really aren't that lethal. no human character has been killed by a bullet. And here's a gift. She has a hammer which has a grenade launcher infused in it. And also there is the gun.
What kind of gun?
And also sometimes dogs.
Oh God, I don't remember.
This is essentially just scratching the surface because RWBY bears many elements of science fantasy, including advanced technology, magic, and other intelligent races.
One of these is this ship that's run by the Atlas, and it is basically their main military ship, and it can actually fly through the air.
It's essentially stuff taken out of your typical science fiction work. And this is dust. The many colors represent many elements that can change attacks, or even simple stuff such as weapons. The weapons themselves and what they can do. Now these creatures are monsters called Grimm. They are essentially animals without souls, and they are pretty much a universal antagonist of the entire series. Oh. Yeah. Essentially, there are different types of Grimm, varying different size, different species, and they're probably the most fought enemy in the show. And here we see a girl with rabbit ears. So, and according to everyone, she's best waifu.
That was Linda.
But this is only one example. She is a fungus. They're essentially humans with animalistic traits. There are others, such as with cat ears, monkey tails, puma claws. The most common order would be mammals for when it comes to fungus. They are also a source of a darker theme in the show, and that is the uncomfortable discussion of discrimination. However, we'll get to that in a minute. You can see here, she is casting fire all on her own without the use of dust. Nothing in her clothes, despite the fact that they're lighting up. She is actually capable of wielding fire herself. And another science fiction element would be holograms. Here you can see a professor communicating with students on board a vessel on their way to Beacon Academy, which is one of many universities in which people can go learn to be hunters or huntresses, where they essentially learn how to defend the world. We're going to finish this little part of the slideshow real quick, and then we're going to finally get back to the video that we wanted to show. So here she is casting energy, essentially. She's wielding multiple blades, and they're floating. But they're not exactly floating in the traditional sense. They're connected by really thin wire, but she's able to wield them in any way she wants, spin them any way she wants, and she can also direct them to cast basically her own energy through it. And also the fact that a 5-foot girl is stopping a 10 truck. Again, this is not realistic, folks. And here we see a map. That's essentially it, just a map. So it allows us to go back and let's give the video a shot.
Smashing good.
You okay? After this, where do you want to eat? After this, where do you want to eat?
I'm
I
not
apologize,
sure.
technical difficulties.
Can we go take the photo first? Because I need to take this off.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to take the photo.
Okay.
I was joking.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to split Subway?
Not really.
Okay.
I kind of want pizza.
I just eat pizza so much, is the thing. That's in my freezer half the time. Nope.
Can you hear that? Yep.
Yeah.
That better for everyone?
Yep.
Alright, so for those of you who stayed, I'd like to thank you for sitting with us through that technical difficulty fiasco, but I think we're good to go now. And for those of you first joining us, welcome. So let's get back to where we were. So as I mentioned earlier, there are difficult subjects in RWBY. It's not always sunshine, even in the first volume, which is essentially the closest thing to family-friendly that Roosterteeth can ever get. And so although the first however many episodes are all fun and games, sweet action, you start to notice some problems right away. For example, this guy pulling on this rabbit ear, this poor bun. And it's also segue into another problem, bullying. However, discrimination is one that will forever keep coming back in RWBY, whereas the bullying issue only had a couple episodes to shine. But again, it is serious discussion. And with the discrimination, there's also another rather difficult topic, extremism. In RWBY, there is a group known as the White Fang, which is a collection of faunists, while originally organized to protest said discrimination and to fight for equal rights for faunists. Eventually, when new leadership took over, it became a terrorist faction known to attack many human organizations, trade routes, etc.
In the series of RWBY, you can't simply call yourself a huntsman or a huntress. You end up having to go to academies in the different countries in the show. And each school is different, and each of the students in the schools each learn to use their abilities, their semblance, and their weapons to the best of their abilities to help fight the Grimm that have basically taken over the outskirts of most of the cities and stuff like that.
Think of these schools as Hogwarts with guns. That's essentially the easiest way to put it. And instead of a little British boy saving the day, it's a bunch of little girls. And of course, in order to give an education, you need educators. And so one example of said institution is Beacon Academy. And it has huntsmen and huntresses on staff educating and inspiring the youth to become huntsmen and huntresses. However, they're not retired. They're still active huntsmen and huntresses. And they will get their hands dirty if need be. Another thing that RWBY did recently with the third season is it brought in some more notable actors outside the Roosterteeth family, with notably Vic Mignogna, who you might know as Edward Elric, and Tamaki Suchi. Or Suo, sorry. I don't know, what character's name is Suchi? And another cool thing about RWBY is that while it's